Hey guys, welcome to the Bird Brain Podcast, where the goal is to rise above it all, stay elevated, create that infinity, and up your you. I'm your host, Isaiah, and what are you angry about? What are you still sad about? What are you still beating yourself up about? How's that working for you? Today's episode, we're going to talk about the process of healing, and I'm going to share something with you, and I really hope you let it sink in, and I hope you take it with you and use it as a reminder as you go through your moment to moment, your everyday living, and understand just what's necessary to know about this whole process. All right, so wherever you are, if you're driving, focus on the road, put on your seatbelt. If you're at home, just listen. Or if you're cleaning, you're doing something while you're listening, it's all good, right? This is your time. This is our time. And we're just going to take our time. All right? Stay tuned. Hey, how are you? How are you really? um, how's your healing journey going? How's life going? I should say that's what it is. You know, healing journey is such a coined phrase now. And when you hear it, sometimes it's like nails on a chalkboard, right? Because it's just this thing. It's this thing. It's a coined phrase. How's your growth journey? I think that sounds pretty dope too. But how is it? What are you mad about right now? What are you sad about? Who are you mad at? Right? Who in some way has that you feel has let you down or didn't show up? And what are your feelings about that right now? How long ago did this happen, right? How long ago did the scenario happen, or what has the relationship ended, right? What is the current circumstances of this situation? The likelihood is it's not happening in this very moment. It's not happening in this very moment. It didn't happen probably 10 seconds ago. Probably didn't happen a day ago or a week ago. It's a old wound in a lot of ways, right? And the thing about it is that when we have those moments of frustration, right? Or even in terms of like your self esteem, your self love, all of that, it seems like it's stuck in traffic. Like getting to that spot where it's like, yeah, I finally love myself, or yeah, I'm finally past that breakup, or yeah, I'm over how this person treated me. The thing about the growth and everything like that, we think that everything's all good until we kind of see or interact with that person again, or that thought comes up, or there's an experience that reminds us of what happened, and then we're back to square one, or we feel like, man, why did this bother me? I thought I was past this. Why am I still angry? Or why is this happening? Why do I have such a hard time accepting who I am, and being present with myself and valuing myself? What we need to understand and accept. I said this to my client the other day. It's like a souffle, right? I don't know if you guys are bakers or sugar demons like myself, but the way a souffle works. A souffle is a very delicate dessert, very 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 delicate dessert, very delicate process. Needs a water bath. I think you have to, depending on how you make the souffle, there's like egg whites involved. I think, yeah, there's definitely egg whites involved. It has to be. the egg whites need to be whipped to a certain consistency to get stiff peaks, and you can't mix the batter. You have to fold it in, right? You have to be very delicate with the process, and it takes time. And the funny thing about a souffle is when it's baking, yeah, you put it in a water bath. You got to make sure no water gets into the souffle itself. You have to have the right ramekins, right, to put the souffle in order for it to cook properly. The temperature has to be at the right temperature. Like it needs the right amount of heat, right? And the last thing, the most important thing, is you cannot open the oven too soon. Otherwise, the souffle will fall. The souffle will fall, right? So the dessert in itself, the whole process, everything up until that point, every step matters to get the perfect dessert. And if that doesn't happen, if you rush it, all the work that you did, it just falls, right? It's deflated. So when we think about how life is supposed to look after a certain, situation or dynamic or scenario, and we're frustrated that it didn't work, guys, what step of the baking process are you on? Where are you? Let's be honest. Where are you? And the funny thing about it is it's not linear, right? Healing is not linear. If you look at healing, it's kind of, you're driving down the road. There's going to be potholes. There's going to be a detour somewhere, right? As long as you're not driving in circles, you're good, right? And sometimes the funny thing is we are driving in circles in a lot of ways. Why? Because we're so hung up on the fact that, maybe this person is not hurting the way that we're hurting, right? Why are they not feeling what we're feeling, right? Why is it that I have to experience this? Or why do I keep doing this to myself? Why do I keep beating up on myself? Why can't I just accept myself and love myself and encourage myself? Why can't I not do all these things yet? Why is it so hard? Well, you have to understand, a relationship in itself is time spent. There's effort. There's a period of time that's exhausted into building a relationship. There's energy there. There's exchange. So let's say if you have even a 1 year relationship, a 1 month, 2 months relationship, right? 2 months. Think about how often you're talking to that person. Think about how often you're engaging with that person. Think about how much time is spent. And then you break up, right? A day does not equate to 60. Okay. So that's 2 months of a relationship that ends, right? And you're having to process that. And you're not just processing the end of the relationship. You're also processing what you've experienced, how you feel, what you learned. If you learned something, hopefully you apply it. You also learn a lot about your stuff, your past, right? In the past, who you are, or your past experiences did not happen overnight. That was repetition involved, correct? So think about it in 2 months. That's 2 months, right? How much thought goes into that situation, that relationship, and what you're having to chew on and ruminate over. Now think about a relationship that's 10 years. Think about a marriage, right? Let's think about that situation, And a marriage isn't just a marriage. It's you have to plan for a wedding. You have to come up with the finances. You got to figure out a venue, right? You got to figure out what dress to wear. You got to figure out what suit to wear, right? You got to figure out groomsmen. You got to figure out bridesmaids. You got to figure out the guest list, okay? You got to figure out what the food's going to be, right? You got to figure out the perfect day. So all of this goes into a wedding itself. Forget the 10 years that it took to get to that point to decide you wanted to get married. That's relationship. And let's say you get a divorce or you separate, or even boyfriend and girlfriend, or whatever. You're in a partnership with someone, right? And it ends. All that time, the mindlessness, quote unquote, the day-to-day that goes into building a relationship does not dissipate because the relationship did. You get what I'm saying? It does not end when the relationship does. Those feelings do not necessarily end when the relationship does. Okay. So if you're still reeling from certain experiences and things happening, yeah, the physical aspect, the proximity of that relationship is no longer there. But that energy exchange, yes, that's very much of who you are. We have to understand how much we impact and influence each other, right? How much our energy is worn by the other person. Okay. So if you are hung up on why can't I get over this person, first of all, stop trying to hate them. Stop trying to hate people, right? And I said this in the last episode. Stop trying to resent someone first to love yourself. Okay? Stop trying to think that that's how it works. There has to be this give and take. No, it doesn't work like that. The moment you accept that, yeah, you know what? I really cared about this person and it hurt that things ended. It hurt. It sucked. All right, cool. I've gotten that out the way, and that's a big one because a lot of times people don't want to admit that. It's like if you admit to yourself that somebody hurt you and that you cared for somebody, it's the worst thing in the world. And that ties into the inflexibility that we have when it comes to giving ourselves the space to recognize that how I may feel about myself is not necessarily my feelings. It was somebody else's feelings of themselves projected onto me. So when you go through life and you are the recipient of somebody's lack of self-love, that's programming, guys. That's programming. And I think I even talked about that in my book. That's funny to say. I talked about this in my book. But I talk about how we eventually start policing ourselves, right? The person that planted the seed of doubt, of inferiority, or of unworthiness, right? Not being valued. That person no longer has to do that job. Why? Because the voice is like having a record player, right? The voice in our head is not ours. Sounds like ours, right? It sounds like ours. But we start policing ourselves so the other person doesn't even have to do much. Okay, so think about that. If you have that voice on repeat, you have that perception on repeat. How do you think, and this is a disservice to yourself, you honestly think that you, in a week of deciding, all right, cool, I'm going to work on being better, that things are just going to happen and it's just going to click? No, we are creatures of habit and pattern, right? Even going to the gym. You can't go for a day and try to lift 315 pounds. 315 pounds, let's see. I ebb and flow. I think when I finally started lifting that heavy, how long did it take? Let's say I go to the gym like 6 days a week, 6 days a week, right? And I was lifting, this is squats, doing legs maybe 2-3 times a week, right? And going 5 days a week. And over a span of, let's say, months, guys. You're talking about I don't want to say 4 or 5 months, maybe like 2 months, maybe 3. When I would attempt 315 to squat it, right? For repetition. That didn't happen overnight, right? And it still doesn't happen overnight, right? If I miss the gym for a little while, or if my body's just fatigued, I can't go into the gym and lift 315 like it's nothing. Sometimes I'll attempt it and I will hurt myself, right? There's an injury there, but otherwise doing it properly will require me to take my time, right? And it will require me to start lower. And that's how healing works. Like it's very much, you don't necessarily go back to your past. You may revisit it, but you don't stay as long. You don't stay there. Right? And moving forward, you just learn to prioritize different, All right, that person hurt me. They didn't show up. Okay, well, what did I learn from that? What did I learn? Because once you learn something from a situation, that's great because you have information and you have tools necessary to move forward. Right? Now that I know better, I do better. And it doesn't mean you won't default sometimes to your natural learning. You didn't become this person overnight. So when people say forget the past, I'm like, that's bull. Why? Because I'm literally who I am presently in this moment is a compilation of my entire past, my experiences, how they have affected me is who I am presently. So I will always be a version of my past working towards my future presently. I will always be a version of my past working towards my future presently. And the present work I do is going to determine the future. But we have to understand that the past is still a participant of our present work. And that's okay. So the getting frustrated with yourself that you're not over something or whatever, it doesn't serve you. That keeps you stuck. Like, oh man, why can't I? And you can be frustrated, right? You can be frustrated, but make sure you're aware of what you're frustrated at. Right. And I'm not even saying being frustrated at the other person. You know, you could be frustrated at the circumstances. Yeah, this hurt. That sucked. That really upsets me. I really feel hurt by this situation or this thing. Now what? Acceptance is such an amazing thing because listen, once you accept how something feels, right? Good, bad, or indifferent, that's a knowing, right? I accept that this is how I feel. I accept that this happened, right? Facts and data. I'm accepting what is. It is what it is. It's not what it's not. So I'm just going to accept that. And when I accept that, that makes room for what's next. All right, cool. We got this out of the way. Bet. Amazing. And you take it from there. But it's important for you to be a little bit more flexible, right? When you're baking a souffle, you have to be patient. You have to follow the steps. You have to have the right temperature. You have to have the right tools. Okay? Everything needs to be good for you to get the finished product. And healing is, you're going to be healing for the rest of your life if you're doing it right. And it's fine. You won't heal from the same things in the same way. You won't have to do that because you'll let a lot of things go. You'll stop ruminating, right? You'll be at peace about certain things. You'll stop waiting for somebody to get their just desserts. Is it just desserts or just desserts? You'll stop waiting. You'll stop waiting for somebody to get their justice. And what you'll do is you'll just start being more patient with yourself. So instead of waiting for somebody else to get their outcome or for you to be able to observe that somebody is hurting because of them hurting you, stop waiting for that. You know, because the more you wait for somebody else to get what they quote unquote deserve in your head, the more impatient you are with yourself. Does that make sense? The more frustrated you get with yourself. You are the only one that's experiencing you to that magnitude. So the more impatient you are about somebody else, you getting your lick back or you seeing that they're now hurting, the more you wait on that, the more impatient you become with yourself. And you're the only one that suffers. So you have to understand, what is it that I'm mad about? What is it that I'm sad about? How do I feel? What's important for me to recognize in this moment? How can this be, how can I have a different point of view? How am I treating myself? In those moments of frustration, you got to ask yourself, how are you treating yourself? You know that little kid that kind of watches their parents argue, or when their parents in a bad mood, they feel like it's their fault. That's how the little kid feels with you. The little kid in you feels. It's like, oh shit, well, they're mad again, so I must not be doing something right. I must not be healing fast enough. I must be too sensitive right now. I'm not doing what I should be doing to make things okay. And who does that serve? And we have to be so honest about what we're setting ourselves up for when it comes to other people, guys, right? Two things can be true at once. People can do some shitty things. People may not show up for you and it hurts like hell. But once someone shows us that they're not willing to prioritize us, or we don't matter that much, or we're not a priority, that's information. Because if you keep coming back and hoping that eventually one day they're going to prioritize you properly, that's you setting yourself up for disappointment. You setting yourself up for hurt. And eventually, yes, you get mad at them, but you're mad at them for doing and being exactly who they are. Right? You're mad at them for doing what's important to them. I mean, you prioritize them because they're important to you, right? But you're mad at them for having their own priorities, and you're not one of them. You can't be mad at that, or at least you shouldn't be, right? When people show us who they are, we don't repaint the picture. We see it and we thank them for their generosity. Thank you for showing me exactly who you are and for where I stand with you. Thank you so much. You've been so generous with who you are and your authenticity that now I can distinguish this relationship and evaluate it properly and recognize where it belongs for me. Thank you. Practice gratitude. Thank you for showing me what wounds I still got to work on, because I'm so upset with you. I'm so upset with how things happen. Thank you for this. This shit sucks, but you know what? This is what I'm getting. So thank you. Just think about that. Okay? Practice gratitude in those moments and say, you know what? This is the truth that I may not have wanted, but this is definitely what I needed. And if it's something that I needed, it's important to me that I utilize it properly. Okay? That's all I got for you guys. I hope you have an amazing weekend. Hope you had an amazing weekend. I hope you have an amazing week. And just take inventory, guys. Take stock of where you are, how you feel, and ask yourself, am I just looking to have a cookie right now, or am I looking to make a souffle? One is a little bit more satisfying. It requires a little bit more patience, but it's satisfying. Okay? And that's the work you did, so you should be proud. Coaching is available, accepting new clients. Link is in the bio description of this episode. And if you want to rate and review the podcast, go ahead and leave some love. Let the people know what you like about it. Spotify, iTunes, I forget where else, but it's all over the place. And if you want to become a Patreon supporter, patrons get early access to episodes, ad-free. They also get bonus episodes. And yeah, get more of my voice. All right, so that's all I got for you. Okay, take care of yourselves, yeah? Take care of yourselves. Take care of yourselves, because when you take care of yourself, you're able to take better care of others. Take flight.